talk about, and we're going to talk to a former NATO official on this very shortly, but this Zelenskyy-Trump meeting, Alice, what do you think about what's in line there? Is there any chance of an agreement being made?
I think it's very interesting because obviously last time Trump mentioned that any talks with Ukraine or even the EU allies would not result in peace, but I think it's a very good sign that he seems willing to start listening to the Ukrainian voices and what's really happening here on the ground in Europe. In terms of how effective this will be, I think it's difficult to say, but if there is a sincere will for peace, then I think it's so clear at the moment that Russia's aggression is deeply problematic in this regard. It's not a case anymore, I think, that we can say, well, there's been a lot of provocation on the side of the EU. Like, that has been historically an issue in the NATO expansion.
Yeah, but they may get rewarded for it.
But this is the thing. I just hope that they'll be able to come to some kind of agreement.
Now, Andy, this is right up your street, negotiation. In your business, you know what it's all about, negotiation. You see, I don't think Trump's into negotiation. I just think Trump is into the art of the deal. Yeah. That is what it's about to him. And he can't stand it if it's not going to go his way. Yeah. And this is not going to be just as simple as I think he makes out.
Yeah, well, he's got a very 20th century American attitude to kind of foreign diplomacy that is, the US says it, so it's going to happen, which is certainly an approach to take. I mean, everyone wants peace, but I think there is that kind of idea that's batting around that, you know, Russia could seem to have been rewarded if they get to keep a certain amount of territory, or there are certain conditions about Ukraine's application to join NATO or whatever it is.
Well, look, Andy, listen, former senior official of NATO, Nicholas Williams. Hello, Nicholas. Delighted to have you on board and to hear your take on things here. We're talking about Russia. Will Russia seem to get rewarded no matter what happens? Is it a win-win situation for Russia and Putin?
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
And good morning, Eamon. As you said, Trump is interested in the deal. At one stage, he veers towards Russia, and on another stage, he may veer towards Ukraine. But this deal that Zelenskyy is presenting to Trump will firmly be rejected by Russia. It has elements of deals that they've already rejected out of hand. So,
but then where do we get to, Nicholas? Where does that leave us with today? Because we were being led along the road that right, we've got this much from Ukraine, we get this much from Russia. Oh, it looks as though we're going to get a compromise on all of this. You just don't think that's going to be the case, and if so, then where does that leave us?
Well, I think it leaves Trump with a difficult decision. And the Ukrainians and Europeans have maneuvered Trump into the position of whether he fully supports and backs Ukraine or not. And Trump has to make a decision. If he says, well, I'm not willing to put this deal to the Russians because there are elements of it which the Russians will reject, then that will be a defeat for Ukraine. But if he says, yes, this is the deal which the United States will back, and if Russia doesn't agree, then we will support Ukraine to the hilt. And that's where Zelenskyy is trying to maneuver Trump. But Trump is slippery and he may not take the bait.
What about Putin? What's he doing? I mean, you look at these terrible drone and missile attacks over the past few days. Why are they happening now?
Well, they've been happening for the past few months, and they're targeting energy, particularly electricity and gas facilities, because in Ukraine there are communal heating facilities. And in the winter, if these facilities are taken out, then the Ukrainians in their apartments will freeze. And he's trying to signal that resistance is futile.
So what is the next step? What will they have to concede to Russia to get any sort of deal on the table from them?
Well, you'll have to concede, in the first place, the territory that they claim as their own, which is the four oblasts, the four regions, counties of Ukraine, plus Crimea, and NATO. NATO's off the table, and particularly what they call denazification of Ukraine, which means a government which is friendly culturally and politically to Russia.
It's fascinating listening to you, and a man of your experience and all this involvement with NATO, for instance, where NATO will feature in the future. In the studio, Andy 12 and Alice Grant, who've been listening to you with great interest. Andy, have you got a point you'd like to put to Nicholas?
I do. I've got a question about that kind of politically and culturally sensitive to Russian government in Ukraine. How do you think that could be facilitated in the first instance without having that kind of Russian intervention in sovereign territory almost?
Well, the 20-point plan that Zelenskyy is presenting to Trump contains the provision that each country will educate their children into tolerance and respect for the other culture. I think that's the limit of what the Ukrainians will accept. And I think if everything else is conceded to the Russians will accept it as well. Okay. But the problem is this agreement has to be legally binding. And that means treaties, and that means a hell of a long time to negotiate.
Well, a woman that understands what legally binding means, lawyer Alice Grant. Alice, what would you like to say to Nicholas?
Trump was very keen on obtaining rights to rare earth minerals. I was wondering how that could